Motivational Monday. I'm going to get rid of this little pop-up window. Thank you for joining me today. For those of you that are, we are talking about massage guns today. If you have one, if you're using one, perhaps you're a therapist or a massage person using one in your wellness center. A lot of my massage therapists, my lymphatic drainage specialists, there's all kinds of people that already know the benefits of using what is called a percussion massage device. I'd love to hear from you guys today, where you're from, what you're using yours for, if there's any tips. Very much like vibration machines, you are really only limited by your imagination and to a degree your range of motion. This is more of a pocket-sized solution as opposed to a vibration plate. No, you're not going to get exercise benefits, but under the same premise of how we heal and interact with the systems on our bodies through vibration plates, there's a lot of ways that you can target specific areas, target anything from chronic or even, severe issues, right down to a maintenance and a recovery piece for our athletes, or, maybe you are dealing with something that's been resolved and you want to keep it away. So I'm going to get into a few generic things to know about massage guns. And I'm also going to talk about a few of my favorite ways to apply them. I, of course, would love to hear some of yours. As we go rambling through today, I am going to have Jen drop a few links. There's lots of different guns available. Which one is better for me or for my husband? Perhaps after going through some of the intel that I'm going to share with you today, it'll help you better ascertain what type of gun is best for your needs. And there are some differences to look for other than size and price and things like that. A little bit of science. I went into the Wikipedia world today to discover that vibration, percussion massage, if you will call it, has been around really for a long, long time. We used to manually use our hands, and many of our healers in today's world, our therapists, do use their hands and do manual percussion massage, lymphatic massage. But I found the most interesting debate on the history of where massage guns actually came from, who penned the reference. My experience, for those of you in my fat disorders group, I met a doctor in Arizona one time that had taken a skill saw and retrofitted it and put a racquetball on a little peg. And she was using this, this skill saw, which is, very similar to what you may see today. But, there's some progressive, innovative thinkers out there. Going back as far as the 1800s, Taptement is a technique used in Swedish massage. I hope I pronounced it properly. It's a rhythmic percussion, most frequently administered with the edge of the hand or cupped hand, or even the fingertips. It's primarily used to wake up the nervous system and also as a stimulating stroke, which can release lymphatic buildup in the back and other areas of the body. For those of you that have ever gone for manual lymphatic drainage, you know exactly the type of technique that I'm talking about. But they classified it, again, going back as far as 1800s, there's 5 basic types of percussion massage. So there's what's called beating, closed fist, hitting the area, lightly hitting the area. There's slapping, where we use the fingers to slap gently. There's hacking, which is using the edge of the hand on the pinky finger side, so this edge of your hand, and then cupping to make your hand look like a cup and gently tap the area. A doctor by the name of Joseph Mortimer Granville, who was an English physician, author, and inventor, was known for having patented the first electromechanical vibrator for release of male muscle aches. I thought it was interesting that they said male until I read further. This came about in the late 1800s when he invented a handheld electric vibrator designed specifically to relieve male muscle aches and joints. Again, there was the male reference. And here's where it made sense. There was also a claim by a woman by the name of Rachel Maines. Her device was used to treat women that had hysteria by bringing them to orgasm. I hate to say it, not to say it. I didn't say it. But her work was recorded as historically inaccurate. The publication of her theory has been described as representing a failure in academic quality control. Found no evidence in these sources that physicians ever used electromechanical vibrators to induce orgasms in female patients as a medical treatment. So there you have it. There was some other guy that claimed to be the inventor in 2007, which probably brings us to where we are more so today. I really think with the invention of lithium batteries and the advance of some of our technologies, devices like this, certainly from a portable basis, became more possible. We've all tried thumpers and rollers, and there's all kinds of percussion massage devices, but massage guns have really taken off in the last few years. I'm going to get into a bit of a demonstration as far as a couple of tips that you can use, but there's a couple of little definitions I want you to understand. So regardless of what Life Pro model you may be using or are considering using, two things, and I want to get close up so I can illustrate this properly. There's typically speeds on a gun or levels. You know, there's probably going to be 3 or 5. Some have more. Some have a hot option with a tip. We'll get into tips here. For any of you who saw my joke, I said I was going to give you some tips today. Hope you get it now. But when you turn your gun on, this is an older Sonic model, but it's quiet on camera, so I just wanted to show you this here. So the slower the speed, the slower the massage tip is moving. You'll notice as you increase with your speeds, I'm going to see, it actually gets harder to see it even on camera. It gets fuzzy. Okay. So if we go back to the starting speed, you can almost see it moving. Your speeds are the frequency. So there's so many times per second that this is moving back and forth, just like your vibration machines. So the slower speeds, they tend to be kind of, you know, choppy and not really that therapeutic feeling. I recommend bringing it up to one of the mid speeds. And this isn't if you're dealing with medical conditions. This is if you're using a massage gun for the first time, if you're dealing with grip strength, you know, weakness in the hands, things like that. Bring it up to a mid speed. The faster you go, the smoother, the less jarring the gun itself will feel. The other part, so speed, frequency, how fast the gun is going, slow and choppy is going to hit you a little bit slower. And even though we think we should start slow, I think for this purpose, you'll find a mid-speed, I'm going to stress that, a better starting point and a better experimentation point. Where you want to tailor it is how much pressure you're applying. So I want to get a good camera angle on this. Just wait. So if I'm just skimming, right, I'm just barely letting it graze the surface of my hand. But if I start applying pressure, you see what happens? My hand starts going all over the place. I actually really kind of have to hang on to this. And I think the number one reason people don't get or don't stick with their massage guns, because we think we've got to do the work. We think we've got to be the therapist and we've got to push and drill this thing into our muscles. Not the case. Let the gun do the work. And if you're starting in a place of very poor mobility, you're dealing with frozen shoulder and you want to do your neck and you can't even imagine, start by, you know, working the areas to get you to the neck. The first thing being the hands, the thing that's holding on to the gun. And I think you'll notice just by hanging on to the gun or playing with how it feels, the sensation, playing with different tips, you're going to kind of get used to how it feels. You're going to dissipate some of the fear. But just by hanging on to it, you're going to start noticing after a session or two, your hands are going to feel stronger. If you're dealing with sensitivity issues, neuropathy, scar tissue, you know, bad nerves, Raynaud's, there's so many things that can go on with our hands, just overuse, carpal tunnel. Just by hanging on to it, you're going to start noticing an improvement in circulation. Lymphatic movement is going to get, you know, swollen joints. You don't necessarily have the tolerance if you're dealing with a lot of pain to maybe massage the joint directly, but just get some circulation and lymph going in the hands, in the wrists. And again, we're just skimming it ever so lightly. Let the gun do the work. You'll find if you want to apply pressure, it's probably going to be more tolerable in bigger muscle groups, which we're going to get to next. But again, first thing to learn about is your speeds. Play with them. I think you're going to find a mid-speed more comfortable. The other thing is the amplitude. I'm reverse on camera here. So the amplitude on a gun is how far it's moving with each strike of every time the piston moves inside the gun. It's how far this shaft is moving out. So what we're going to do again is I'll turn it on slow so you can see this. See how far it's moving? Okay. Smaller guns tend to have smaller amplitude, so they're moving less. I believe the Dyna Mini, my pocket sized, which is on loan with my brother, it comes in, I think, around 8 or 9 millimeters. So it's almost moving a centimeter or about 1/3 of an inch. Whereas you get into some of the bigger guns, some of the pro models, you can see 14, 15 millimeters of amplitude. So almost double. So the strike force or how hard it's hitting you with each time is stronger. And that's going to be more relevant for if you're dealing with a larger body, you like that intensity. You're the type of person that when you go for a massage, you really like that deep, it hurts so good kind of feeling. Perhaps you have a high tolerance. You've got a massage gun and you're looking for something with more intensity. You might find that's going to be a better way to go. Look at upping. It's not always a price point either. It's looking at a higher amplitude on that gun. And the same goes if you're dealing with chronic issues or pain and you're just looking for a maintenance piece. Perhaps you're very petite and you've got tiny little hands. You might find a smaller gun with a lower amplitude, a little bit more tolerable, a little bit more comfortable for your everyday use. And for me personally, it's probably one of the reasons I have more than one gun, because I like using more intensity on different things. So we're going to get into some things now. And then I'm going to come back to the camera and get into some more delicate things. So the first thing I want to show you, any of you that own one of Life Pro's massage guns, I'm just going to use one example today. This is one of the Sonic LX models. And it comes with a number of different tips. Again, for those of you that were looking at my cheesy reference on the VIP page, it's going to give you some tips today, go over some tips. There's a heated tip with this one. Not all guns have that. If you're a person that likes heat, you want to get a little bit deeper, that's optional and something to look for when you're comparing. But there's all different kinds of attachments. What on earth could any of these be for? Well, it boils down to like anything when you ask me on your vibration machines, it depends what you're using it for. There's this one here that's got a smaller little rubber tip. If you're massaging, the nape of your neck or maybe the temples ever so lightly. I'm not suggesting everyone uses their gun in the same fashion that I do, but you'll find with, your own level of comfort and experimentation, different tips will change the experience completely based on, their construction. Again, what speed you're using it at. This one here, you'll know, I'm trying to get this wiggle. You can see it's a little bit soft and cushy. I really like using this one to drill in to my joints when my arthritis is really bothering me and I have to look like it girl. The other reason I like having my gun, and I usually have this tip and my other favorite tip. I have 3 actually. Something that looks like this. I've had people ask me, well, it's just a styrofoam ball. Like, is that good quality? It's not a quality thing. It's a purpose thing. The quality of the foam is actually pretty awesome. But it's foam or something hard and metal. The resonance of that vibration or how it carries through onto you from the gun is going to feel different depending on the tip that you're using. So you'll want to experiment with different heads depending on what type of body part you're using. The big foam ball is admittedly probably my number one go-to. I use it for 90% of what I'm using it for. The exceptions would be something like this, where you've got the flatter tops. This one's more of a rubbery, springy. This one, if I'm using it on my thighs or I'm using a larger muscle group, I prefer covering more real estate with this larger tip. This one, you'll notice it's got like little grooves in it. I like using essential oils with my guns as well from time to time. So if you're going to try combining some of these tools, use something that's not going to absorb it. Don't use one of the rubber or the foam tips. Use one of the metal or the plastic heads so you can clean it properly afterwards. Again, one of those points, you're only limited by your imagination. This one here, interestingly enough, when I posted in my group this morning, came up. This one obviously is very good for pinpointing around the neck. down the spinal column, and it does an amazing job of getting into those group of muscles without affecting the spine, which is going to be a big deal for those of you that have hypermobility. The gal that mentioned it this morning has HEDS. And these change very easily. You don't need to be a mechanic or have a tool set. Each of the tips simply inserts. Okay. And if you're like me, I have a couple for a couple reasons as well. I like to have the little one with me on the go. It packs up easily, fits in my purse. The big guns I tend to have at home, or I will take with me if I'm maybe going to visit a client and I don't know really what I'm dealing with. I've been playing with this one recently. This is a tip that came with my Sonic LX versus my Mini. And I'm finding, for those of you in my group that are working with lymphatic applications, this one's going to be nice at maybe moving fluids. I guess we'd be moving this more up this direction. Okay, for those of you that are mimicking that stroking action. I really enjoy this as a warm-up. If you're warming up, going to the gym, maybe you've been sitting at a desk too long and you want to go for a walk at lunch and you've got some tension spots, I think you'll find there's lots of different ways that you can use your guns, not only as a purposeful thing where you're using it for dealing with muscles at home, but throughout your day, if you're not able to be at home and be by your vibration machine or some of your go-to things, the massage gun is the perfect pocket size. It's kind of like having a therapist in your back pocket, I've said before. So I want to get to some other applications. Many of you in my groups are dealing with deficiencies, and one of the big ones I wanted to cover was spot treating. For those of you that might be having restless leg, many of the families that I deal with, my cerebral palsy group, have tightness in the hamstrings, and it's very hard to get the legs straight before you go to bed. Instead of you manually applying your hands for hours on end, a really great way, I'm going to get this going, to do the hamstrings is I'm sitting on the new AeroStep, in case you haven't noticed yet, instead of a vibration machine. But you can do this while you're on your vibration machine, and you can just start just by getting a little. It's not about going super, super deep. Again, let the gun do the work. So I'm just grazing the surface. If you do have lots of spasticity, tight muscles, and you're unable to straighten your legs, I wouldn't recommend, starting in this fashion. Just get those muscles warmed up, the muscle groups, get the circulation and the lymphatic movement going. If you're dealing with sciatic issues, and you're finding it's even, troublesome to just get up off the ground, just getting some circulation and some lymph to these areas is going to improve flexibility. It's going to improve the stability of your legs when you stand up, believe it or not. And if you are dealing with chronic sensation issues, neuropathies progressing, anything you can get to drive circulation to those areas is going to be a win-win. For restless leg, a lot of you dealing with MS or fibromyalgia, you get that pain in the quads. And as much as we know, exercise and using your vibration machines are probably in the long run not only going to be more beneficial on the fitness gains, but sometimes you're having bad days, or sometimes you're not by your other therapies for your self-care. So this is a very simple way to target those muscle groups, keep the good work that you have progressed with going, and just make sure that if you are dealing with pain, inflammation, tightness in the muscle groups, that you're keeping it at bay. Don't just do it when they're presenting a problem. Keep the maintenance piece going too. And again, I'm not really applying a whole lot of pressure. I'm letting the gun do the work. For those of you that might be a little bit more advanced and you're working on flexibility or things like that, I like working it this way. So I'm actually stretching, my legs are locked, and I'm going up and down that hamstring where I feel it's tightest. I've had a little bit of sciatic issue on both sides going on because I've been sitting on my butt a little more than I should be. And then you can really feel and target that hamstring. Something else I use it for, many of you that know my story, I have a bad knee. That's how I got into this. And the tendons on the outside of my knee, like when the weather changes, when I've been wearing the wrong footwear, I use it to just sort of get in the back of my knee. And again, I'm using a larger tip. I don't want a big pinpoint. I'm kind of getting close to areas of bone. but it's a really good way to not only get rid of the tension and the tightness that I feel in that tendon, but I do get intermittent swelling on the outer edges from time to time. So this is a really good way to just help move that fluid up to the extremities, up towards the abdomen and the body. So those were just a couple of applications. For those of you that are dealing with lipomas, you've got knots in your muscles. I'm bringing this up. A lot of you are probably going, what is a lipoma? It is something that develops under your skin. It is a non-cancerous growth, primarily made up of fat, but they can become very painful themselves. You can bump them all the time. And many of the ladies and men in my fat disorders group that are dealing with lipedema or Derkham's disease have developed these. And one of the big questions I get in that group is, well, can I use it to get rid of those? That often the method of treatment is surgery. And the downside of surgery is very commonly the darn things come back. Not everyone's got coverage for these types of surgeries, and many of the doctors out there and hospitals are unaware of these conditions. They don't all have a standard of care, so there's not always a treatment plan understood or available. So when in doubt, self-treatment, self-care has become a very popular choice. And through experimentation, many of us in the group have found. So I'm going to stand up here so I can do a better example. This is a lump in my elbow, which is my bone, but it's been really sore with my arthritis. But let's pretend that that's a lump, a lymphoma, a painful one. Many of the ladies in my group are using their guns to break up and dissipate these lumps of fat, these really hard lumps of fat. And the best way to go about it is to work around. I wouldn't hit it dead on, but start prepping the skin surface around the lump. It's not, they're everywhere. They're not always just on arms, but I'm trying to give you a good demonstration here. And what you kind of want to do is go in a circular motion, work around the lump. Perhaps you're working on a piece of scar tissue, a tight tendon, and it's just too tender to hit the spot direct on. Work in a circular motion around the area of concern. And just prep the area to get the blood, the circulation going, warm up the tissue in the area. And I think you'll find, if you go like a little cinnamon bun action where you're kind of going closer and closer to the center, it might take a few days or a few weeks to develop the tolerance. But what I'm noticing is by using these guns for relief, to target these things, because many of them have been massaging manually or using topicals, you'll notice all of a sudden, maybe it's getting a little smaller, or it's broken into a couple, 3 pieces. And this is feedback I'm getting from clients using this based on their own experience using the guns. Some of the tips that I'm giving you today are very much to cater to sensitivities that you might be dealing with. So sensitivity is one of those things. It doesn't matter how big we are, what our background is. It varies for everyone. And when you're dealing with a massage gun, again, just to recap, earlier I said, make sure that you're bringing it up to a mid-speed range and just let the gun do the work. I'll show you again. So slow speeds are very hammering. You see if I apply pressure, how my whole arm is moving. Whereas if I just let it skim the surface, and if I pull it away, you can see the distance. I'm still hitting my arm, but just barely grazing it. Not terribly exciting or comfortable. Bring it up a bit. You can hear it now a little bit more too. This is going to be a little bit more tolerable if you are dealing with sensitivities. Again, let the gun do the work. If you're finding that it's hard to hold on to the gun, that's part of where the pain is, Deb. So how do I hang on to this gun and do my legs? Well, as I said, try just starting by holding the gun. And if you don't have the ability to hang on to it for long periods, just starting out, sitting on the couch, or just tuck it between your legs and just hang on to the gun and start developing, strength in the hands. It'll only take a session or 2 before you start feeling a little bit more confident. But this way you're at least getting used to how it feels, kind of exposing yourself to what speed feels good. You can play with the heads without, physically having to hang on to the thing, because it will improve. A lot of my families are using these as a tool to work with my little kids to straighten those legs before they go to bed, as I said. It's going to be great for back pain, muscle tension. If you've got a partner that can help you great. But for those of you that are dealing with range of motion issues, maybe it's hard to get up there with the gun and get where you'd like to get. You can start by just working the arm itself that has the range of motion issues. Okay. So if it's this one that, depending on whether you're right or left-handed, I'm prominently right. And that happens to be where my range issues are. But the nice thing is you can get some circulation and some blood going. All of that will build. It's for many of you, it's taking you 20, 30, 40 years to develop these deficiencies. You're not going to get miracles overnight. What I would caution is if you're overdoing it, because that'll be the next question, Debbie, how often can I use my massage gun? It's a little bit different than a vibration plate where you're doing weight bearing exercises potentially, but you can overdo anything. For those of you that are maybe prone to bruising or sensitivities, again, I want you to be comfortable and feel you have control and strength over the device. So maybe just start by holding it lightly and working the hands a little bit. If you feel confident using it, you're using it on different body parts. So, I wouldn't massage your neck for half, 3/4 of an hour and you not expect to maybe be a little sore the next day, just like if you've gone for a good massage. But experiment. You're going to find different tips and different speeds are going to work different, for your needs, depending on what body part you're targeting. But you can use it throughout the course of the day. So it's a perfect pack with you. Throw into your gym bag or into the car. They all come with a lithium battery, so you there is no need to charge them into the wall. And most of them have a really generous battery life, probably 3 to 5 hours, depending on use. This one this morning before the session, I was just thinking, I don't think I've plugged this thing in since probably November, and I have used it quite regularly. So there you go. I tend to use mine for 2 to 3 minutes, get her done, and do more on my plate. I've also used them in conjunction with my vibration plate if you need to save time. So again, lots of ways that you can use these to target trouble spots. Compare the amplitudes. That's the distance of the strike force or how intense it's going to feel. Mid to higher speeds are going to be a little bit more comfortable starting out, especially if you're dealing with chronic issues. And select a gun that makes sense for you and your general use. If everybody in your house is 6'6", you might want to look at something at like the Sonic or the Sonic LX. If you're looking at, I've got a friend I gifted one to for Christmas. Her 9-year-old is a performer on stage, and she tends to get leg cramps. The Dynamini was ideal not only for mom, but for the little one as well, because she can pack it and she can take care of her needs throughout the course of the day. I've had a few of my special needs families get the little one just to take to school. As sometimes when chronic conditions crop up, it can really kill your day. And if you can manage the tension and the aches and the pains so that they don't build up into this big ball of a mess towards the end of the day, you can have a better quality of day. So just some tips. I can't say enough about the number of different models that LifePro has. Take some time looking at them. If you've got any questions or you want to share your favorite way to use your massage gun, please tag me at Debbie in this live, and I'll certainly get back to you if it's a question. If you're sharing, thank you for doing so. I appreciate you all joining me today, and I would look forward to seeing you next Monday, same time, 5 o'clock Eastern time, 2 p.m. Pacific. I don't know that we have any questions today. That tells me everybody's massage gun experts. And I think out of all the products that LifePro has, many of you are probably employing the benefits of a massage gun. They are endless. And again, you are only limited by your imagination, and you got your pocket-sized therapist wherever you serve your need. And don't be afraid, like I say, let symptoms dictate, whether it's muscle tension, you're an athlete or you're dealing with arthritis. Don't wait. The cool thing about tools like this is you can take them with you on the go, have that non-invasive alternative to help you live a better quality of life. So enjoy these. Have a great Monday, guys. Have a great week. Don't work too hard, and we will talk to you again very soon.